Thank you. And if I may, Mr. Secretary, I want to thank you for meeting with our governor, Bill Lee. You've been so good to talk with so many governors, and maybe at some point in time it would be great if we could have a bipartisan group of governors come up and have a conference with you. So appreciate your being so open and available to speak with all of our governors, because our states are a great hotbed for innovation, and especially in new nuclear. So I thank you for that. At this point in time, I'd like to recognize my dear friend from Florida, Mr. Franklin, for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary. As others have mentioned, I apologize for bouncing back and forth. We've got multiple secretaries here, and it's a shame because we wait all year to have the opportunity to speak with you all. But thanks for your patience, and I apologize if I get into something that you've maybe already touched on, but if nothing else, maybe give you a chance to expand a little more. But also, I'm really excited for this because for my entire life, we strive so hard to achieve energy independence, and in 4 quick years, we unilaterally handed that away. So with your appointment to this position, I was extremely excited at what we have coming. So in the last Congress, I had the chance to serve on the AI task force that the Speaker put together. And across the year, with all the various stakeholder groups, the one theme that kept emerging from all of them, regardless of their specific needs, they said, but the long pole in the tent is going to be energy. You've probably touched on this some before, but specifically on that, a recent Center for Strategic and International Studies report projects that just generative AI alone could require up to 84 gigawatts of additional electricity by 2030, the equivalent of adding another Texas to the grid. So when you combine that with the growing demand from EVs, semiconductor fabrication plants, data centers, we're headed for a very massive strain on the infrastructure. You may have touched on this before, but if you could, maybe put some more meat on the bone. Could you talk about what DOE is doing to ensure we have the generation capacity, permitting reform, grid resilience needed to support this demand, particularly in regions like Florida, where just our growth alone is already outstripping our production capabilities?
Yes, great question. And let me give one background comment. Look, the United States, industrial powerhouse of the world for about a century, the last full year we have data on, we consumed 25 exajoules for manufacturing in our country. Forget the unit, it's a lot of joules. But the relative thing is what matters. China consumed 70. So almost 3 times as much energy is consumed manufacturing in China than the United States. That for 100 years we led in that category. And we've made it hard to permit things in the United States, hard to get air permits, hard to build big infrastructure outside of the Texas, Louisiana Gulf Coast. And so what has that industry done? It's all gone mostly to Asia and the largest piece to China. This is not good for the economy of our country. It's not good for the environment. It's certainly not good for our national security. So the next energy-intensive manufacturing industry is AI. A lot of people don't think of it that, but that's what it is. It takes a lot of energy in the highest and most expensive form of energy, electricity, to manufacture intelligence of very high value. So yes, we need to have that here, which means we need to grow our electricity production a lot in this country. And a lot of citizens are worried about that. They look at the last 4 years and say, wow, the U.S. grew electricity production about 2% in the 4 years of the Biden administration, and prices went up over 20%. And now you're telling us we're going to grow our electricity production by 10% or so? How much are prices going to go up? I don't want that to happen in my country or in my community. And so our answer to that is we're going to grow energy production, electricity production, more than supply. And therefore, we can accommodate the growth of AI and cap the rise in prices. Now, a lot of that price rise was all self-inflicted wounds. There's no shortage of energy. That's the government putting their finger on the scale. The more cheap energy we build, the more expensive our grid gets. Like that tells you that the expression cheap energy is just false, referring to unreliable intermittent energy sources there. Across the board, they make electricity more expensive. So we need to be reasonable and get out of the way and allow people to build energy sources that are reliable, firm, and secure to power their data centers. And everyone we're dialoguing with is build a little bit more capacity than you're going to use. In fact, even if they build at their peak demand, our grid, the most important part of our grid is to meet peak demand when it's super cold out. They can throttle back a little bit and feed a little electricity into the grid at peak demand times. So I actually think the big build out that's needed to win the AI race is actually going to be a positive for our grid, but only if we allow the building of so much new capacity of different sources. But of course, the biggest source of electricity in the U.S. today is natural gas. In Florida, it's 75% of Florida's electricity. And it's also why Florida has half the electricity price of California and produces 25% more electricity with a population only a little more than half of California's. Well done, Florida.
Well, thank you for that Chamber of Commerce announcement there. And that's why we're getting so many Californians moving to Florida. And I've heard you mention before that it is going to be an all-the-above approach and the different sources. And I was appreciative of your comments on nuclear, on the small modular reactors. And we've absolutely got to get regulatory burden out of the way to make that happen. But I'm over time now. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you.